Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Envision weekly live webinars. I'm Burcu Gajal, VP of Customer Success here at Canvas GFX. I'll be guiding you through today's session. These interactive sessions will guide you through the key tools and workflows available in our Canvas Envision portal and Envision Creator. And my goal is to enable you to create and manage digital work instructions more efficiently and seamlessly using these tools and tips. So let me start sharing my screen to show you my agenda for today. Here's our viewer, and let me click on share. Perfect. So all right. So here's our agenda for today. Let me just go ahead and click on the second page here. Today's session will focus on organizing and managing files, folders, and notifications in the Envision portal. And what we'll do is we will talk about some of the techniques structuring our file organization for others to easily get access to it, and how to manage folders and categorize documents effectively. And also, we'll talk about some of the notification tips and tricks. We touched notification in the previous session, so if you haven't been listening that session, please feel free to go into the links in this main link that you have access to get access to that webinar. So, and we will talk about, we will spend around 20 minutes in the live demo and the key features of these topics, and then I will reserve the last 10 minutes for the questions and answers to make sure I answer your questions in real time. So feel free to drop your questions into the chat at any time. Before we get started, I would like to remind you that this is just one of the Envision weekly live webinar series. We'll be here every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, covering new topics each week to help you to get the most of your trial experience. All right, so let's jump into the next page. For those that are brand new to Canvas Envision and just basically joining us the first time, here is our Envision platform introduction. So Envision platform includes a browser-based creator application with an intuitive UI that simplifies our customers' authoring process. And our customers can take advantage of our SDKs and APIs to embed the creator application into other systems such as PLM, MES, and even learning management systems to get those documentation into those systems as well. In the case of PLM integration, the CAD data can be directly imported from the single source of truth, which is the PLM environment, PLM database, and the creator is notified if there are any changes to the models. So our platform also includes an easy-to-manage document management portal with admin settings, user privileges, document permissions, review and sharing features, which we will touch some of those today's session. Like the creator application, the portal also can be embedded to other systems and allowing users to access those documents from widely used systems in the organizations like MES, ERP, or even QMS. And the documents can be viewed during or after the creation in the browser for an interactive consumption experience, featuring dialog prompts with our SDKs, 3D models, interactive animations, and as well as layered actions to switch between different types of data that the end user needs to understand the steps that they need to perform in their workflows. The Weaver application can also be embedded into various digital threads in an organization. We offer SaaS version of Canvas Envision through AWS or Azure Cloud Services. And alternatively, we can also host Envision in our customers' private cloud environment or also on-premise infrastructure. All right, so let's dive into today's session. Let me just simply go ahead and share the next view that I wanted to show you guys. So those are, they were in the sessions before. To be able to get access to the document management part of Canvas Envision, it's app.canvasenvision.com will take you directly to our portal environment. And there, you basically need to put your workspace, username and password, like your user login information. You will be inside of the portal environment. And this is a view similar to this view that you will be seeing. The most important things are in here. I'm just going to do a quick recap in here for those that didn't join to the previous sessions. On the left-hand side, anytime that you're actually clicking on things and you're losing your first view that you have to the login Envision portal, just click on the left logo and you will see the first UI that you will see when you log into the Envision portal. One thing that we covered in the previous sessions, on the right-hand side, if you're an admin for a workspace, you will see a key icon over here. And when you hover your mouse over, you will see an admin area icon, and then you will have different privileges to do things that we covered in the last week's session. So for today's session, what I'm going to do in my webinar center, which is the center, the workspace center, the workspace environment that I created for these webinars, I have two workspaces, two work centers. I have one default work center will be there, and the other one is webinar public, which is the public center, which we will cover in a different session more in detail. But what you could do is you can create documentation and save it into the public center to be able to share with those that are anonymous, that they don't even have Envision login information, and they don't even know that you created this documentation inside of an Envision environment. So for this webinar, I'm going to click on the default work center that will be inside of your workspace once you log into that environment from the portal. When you log into the portal environment, the first point of contact that you will see is the workspace that you will have, the work center that is there as default. Okay, so we're in that work center right here. It's a kind of like a hard drive looking icon on the left-hand side. I have an extra work center here. It's called Webinar Public. And at the top, I have a create icon. This create icon will help you to create an Envision document. If you log into the Canvas portal and you want to create a documentation, there is a little icon over here. It's called create. And if you click on it, it will guide you to the create.canvasenvision.com to create a documentation directly from the portal view. Okay, so this is the work center that we're going to work in this session. And a couple of things that I want to go through. I have a couple of documents that I already created, and I save it into this work center, in this hard drive, as you can imagine. And I have different ways of classifying my documentation inside of our Canvas Envision portal. One, if you go to the Creator application and you're creating a documentation, on the right-hand side corner, you will have the first status of this documentation called draft. The way that you create documentation in Envision is the brand new documentation is going to be called as draft, and you will see version 01001 in this example that I'm working on it. The next status is the review. Review is you create a document and you're ready to submit for a peer review for those that they need to see the documentation and validate the information that you have inside of this documentation. And the next one is the publish. Once you have that peer review, have been submitted and you see their feedback in the collaborative environment, then you correct what needs to be corrected, and then you can publish it, publish that documentation for version control to make sure you have the right version to be able to submit it into public folders or to others that they need to consume this documentation, either as an anonymous user, or which we call them viewers, or as consumers that they still require login, but they do not have the creator privileges, if you remember from our previous sessions. Okay, so on the right-hand side, we have the draft version, which we are in this documentation. The next step is review. From the creator application, let's say I created this document that has so many pages that I'm ready to submit for review. If I click on the review icon over here on the right-hand side, I can drop down this menu and see who is in this workspace can review this documentation. So in this case, I have myself as a creator and as well as one of my colleagues that he sees these documents, and I can select one and add that person and then submit that document for review. What happens next? That person that logs, that gets an email notification that there is a documentation in the review process that requires your attention, click on this link to go to that document. And when you click on that document, you will be asked to log in with your credentials. The reason is if I submit this document to multiple reviewers, I want to know who's submitting that specific feedback to me so I can get back to them with the specific needs that they needs to change in that documentation. So again, just a quick recap. You select the document reviewer and then submit for review. And what happens next? That person gets an email notification from Canvas Envision, and they can simply, click on the link and log into the documentation to give their feedback. And in the portal environment, while we're doing this, the first view that you see in the portal view on the kind of like the right-hand side in this kind of like a table view, we have the status column as default. If you're not seeing this by any reason, just click on the show icon over here and make sure that the status is checked to be able to see that column, to see what is the status of that documentation that you're looking for. In my example over here in this work center, I have Envision documentation that is in a draft mode, which is the first way, like first status of the documentation while you're creating that content. And the next, as soon as I submit that document for review, it goes into the review process. And you will see the icon is becoming from red to yellow in color. So if you have icons of your documentation that are in yellow in color, it means that that documentation is in the review process. And the next over here, we will talk about this in a little bit, but the blue icon, while we're talking about the colors, it means that that documentation is published. It means that it went through the peer review process and everything has been corrected and it's ready to roll out to the shop floor. It's ready to roll out to the customers. It's ready to roll out to any system that needs to be embedded into to be able to consume by masses. Okay. So, and as you can see in here, the versions, the numbers of the versions, we deal with some of the database management applications in the backend that we can create some of the versioning in the while we're submitting documentation into different status. For example, while my documentation is in the draft mode, I have the version number 1. Once it's reviewed is actually 0.02. And once it's published, I have the version number 1. Means that that documentation as version 1 can be rolled out to the masses or can be consumed by different the customers or the internal stakeholders from the environment that they have been sharing that content. Okay, so one thing that I want to mention is pay attention when I move my cursor in the portal on different files, I have these right icons popping up as we kind of like see up and down in terms of the actions that I take with my mouse. The first one is your favorite. The one is basically if you're working on documentation for a while that you know that you don't want to get confused between different versions, just highlight that as a favorite and it will give that notification to you when you're working on that content that document is your favorite one, that you could be working on it anytime you want. The next one is edit. If I click on the edit icon over here from the portal view, it will open the creator application. It means that in that document, I'm ready to do any kind of changes. Next one is the view. View is basically is going to open the viewer tab for me to view the documentation from the consumption experience, from the end user experience that is going to look at this documentation and see what's in the content. So it's kind of like a nice QC QA process. Even if you're in the portal, if you want to see what's inside of the document, you don't have to go to the creator. You can just simply click on the view and it will open the separate tab. You won't lose this view. And then you could see what's in that content, what's in that documentation, and then do what you need to do with that document. The next option over here in the same row is the three dots. This is an extremely important menu over here. It's like a three-dot menu. We have different functionalities in here. If your documentation is in the draft mode, you can open this documentation as a template. You can download this document. You can ask me, Burju, why would I download this document? If you want to take this document from one workspace to another, you need to download this document and upload it to that other workspace. We can create a shortcut from this document. We can rename this document. We don't even have to click on the document, go into the creator application. We can rename it basically from this menu over here. More importantly, two things that in here is extremely important for anyone that is taking these documents to different work centers to be able to create that environment for those that needs to get access to it is move to and copy to. As you can imagine, move to is going to take this document from this work center. For example, you're working in the templates environment. If you do move to, it will take this template from this center and move into another center, and then you won't see this template in this work center again. So it's basically cutting it and pasting it. The next option in here is copy to. Copy to is basically creates a copy of it. You're taking from this center to another center to just have the duplicate of this documentation that you want others to see. And if you guys remember the status of the review, if you know the document that you want someone to review, let's say I have this new document that I'm working on it, and I want to add a person to review this content for me, I can click on the add reviewer directly from this three-dot menu and drop down this little arrow. As you can remember, these are the same users that I had access to when I was in the documentation in the creator application. So these are tied in the backend together. So you have different ways of doing the same thing. You can have this documentation reviewed directly from the portal or directly from the creator application separately. Okay. So the other option in here is obviously the delete. You can delete the document in here. And the most kind of like an important information in here, the version history. You have the version history in the creator application. If you click on the top name of the document, I will show you in a second. But you also have a way of kind of filtering if this documentation has been into review process, if this document has been into the published. This wasn't a good example, but let's go to this document. And if I go in this one, I can see that this documentation has been published on November 27 around this time. And I have privileges to do a couple of things with this document. I can actually download this EB doc. I can open this in the Beaver to see what's in the content, and as well as download this as an EB-POP documentation that we will cover in another session. So just a quick recap, we have 3 colors in here in our workspace that you have documentation in different status. One is the red is the draft, the other one is the review, yellow, and the last one that you see in here, published documentation, which is in blue. So one thing that if I go to the public center on my view over here, that if I can click on here, you can have documentation in the public center in different status as well. I have documents in the draft status and I have documentation in published status that I can click on and have different options. One thing that I want you to pay attention is if you have a document that is in the draft or review process, you won't be able to create a permanent link. If you guys remember, for those that are anonymous or the consumers that needs to get access to this documentation, either with login or without the login, they need that link that you create from this documentation. And to be able to do that, this documentation needs to be in the published status. So if it is in blue color in the published status, I can go into that three dot and I will have a slightly different menu in here to be able to create a permanent link in this public center to be able to share this documentation with others. So here we have an active option over here, and we can actually tie this link to a different version. Let's say you have a documentation that you have version 1, version 2, and you want this link to represent the version 1 all the time because that's your configuration that you share with others through your portal, through your website, or through your MES or other systems. So you have a version control over here when you're creating these links directly from the portal environment. And then when you click on the create permanent link, Envision is going to give you not just the URL link of this document, but also the QR code. And obviously you can click on this copy, which will copy the URL link. And if you can also copy the QR code to put it or embed it to any other systems, like, if you wanted to put it on a specific material like stainless steel or an environment that you want people to scan and get access to the latest version of this documentation at all times, you can easily also do so directly from the permanent link area. Okay, so let me go back and do a quick recap over here. In Envision, the documentation we have on the left-hand side, different work centers. The one that is default is the work center. This is where we create the content, and you can click on this little icon to go to the Creator app, start creating the content. And the first color you will see, and the first status you will see in your documentation is the draft mode, which will be 001. And from that, you can go to the review process and then the publish. You can technically skip the review process, go directly to publish if you're the sole creator of the document and also the reviewer of the content. And then obviously you won't be able to see the yellow icon. You will see directly the blue icon to be able to take this document and put it inside of the public center and create those permanent links that the end user needs to see. Awesome. So one thing that I want to mention before I end today's session, inside of your work center, as you can see, I can click on different environments in here. On the left-hand side, I have 2 work centers. You can create folders. This is important to be able to manage your files based on the product, based on the process, based on the project, based on the team members, depending on how it goes in your organization. Again, inside of that work center, you can create different folders, but if you want to tie specific teams to a specific environment, those needs to be a work center. So you need to make sure you create the work centers based on the teams that you want them to get access to specific documentation. But inside of those work centers, you can have as many folders as you like, and you can simply manage your documentation inside of those folders. Okay, so one thing that I want to show you in here as an admin, as you guys can see, I can click on, when I'm in the centers, click on the create, and I can, let's say, create a new center. Let's create a new center together. Let's say template center, right? And I can define a template. It usually gives me lowercase slug over here, and I have an option to do work center. I can activate this with EV Connect SDK, which we will cover in a little bit. You can make this work center as public, And if I go down, as you guys can see, you can actually define a specific team that you create to get access to that work center. Again, it's in the work center level. You need to make sure you create the teams ahead to tie them to a specific work center to get access to the specific set of documentation that they need to see, review, create, depending on their privileges, and consume in our Envision Canvas in our Canvas Envision portal. Cool. All right. So I think this wraps up our session for today. Let me go back to my slide. Just 1 second. There you go. Let's go to our last slide. So just as a recap, I'm just going to push this over here. So I hope you guys found this introduction helpful. That we kind of went through the files and folders and how we work with the 3-dot menu and see the status of different documentation status that to be able to have in different processes in the portal environment. Thank you all for joining today, and don't forget we have other functionalities that are coming up next week. That is not this one, but let me go to my file over here. There you go. That was the file that I was looking for. So next week we'll be covering objects, shapes, and different like object types to be able to create the content further. I know we touched on 3D models and animations in the previous sessions, but the next session on December 4th, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, will be covering on, we'll work with the text objects, creating page layouts, page numbers, shapes, and images. We're going to import image files into Canvas Envision platform. We'll see how we can edit those kind of like a Photoshop style, and we will enhance our documentation and presentations with the design elements. So thank you all for joining us today, and we'll look forward to see you in our next webinar, and have a great day.